This is the Andrew Burchett Podcast, Episode 1, Building Central Park. In the early 1850s, the New York State Legislature and city designers came up with a plan to create the first landscaped public park in the United States. It began with more than 700 acres in the city and in the center of Manhattan. They knew the potential for New York City to explode in population, and if they didn't have a park, a place where people could retreat, a place where the public could go to rest, they knew it would greatly hinder the public health. So Central Park was designed to be a place of retreat where the public could take a deep breath and rest. One of the designers, Frederick Law Olmsted, said this: "The beauty of the park should be the beauty of the fields, the meadow, the prairie, of the green pastures, and the still waters. What we want to gain is tranquility and rest to the mind." Now, it sounds like Olmsted is referring to Psalm 23, this famous part of the Bible where David poetically tells us that the Lord is our shepherd, and he leads us to places of rest, green pastures, quiet waters. Olmsted went on to write, quote, "It is one great purpose of the park to supply to the hundreds of thousands of tired workers who have no opportunity to spend their summers in the country a specimen of God's handiwork, that it shall be to them inexpensively what a month or two in the White Mountains or the Adirondacks is at a great cost to those in easier circumstances." End quote. Now, seeing how New York City has grown with 1.6 million people in Manhattan alone, 8.82 million people in all 5 boroughs, it's clear how brilliant it was to create Central Park for the good of the people. Now, our life without a Central Park leads to what I'll call soul fatigue. It was Al Andrews who said this: "I find that many leaders today are living life like a New Yorker without Central Park." End quote. Is your life feeling like a place where every square foot of your existence is covered with a building? Do you feel like every time you have an open space in your life, a building grows legs and plants itself there? Do you have any times and spaces where you can breathe and rest and receive from God, get refreshed again? You know, so many of us have our lives so packed with activities and some really great things. Responsibilities and commitments bury us and cover every single square foot of our life. And we feel like there's no way to ever create a Central Park. And if you feel that way, it might be time to bulldoze a few of the buildings to make some space into your life. When we live without solitude and a place of rest for our soul, we really lack clarity about our calling, and it's more difficult to discern what's good and what is best, and then we just carry this deep fatigue. Now, Jesus knew, even though he was God in the flesh, he knew he needed a Central Park. When Jesus was trending up and everybody wanted his time and attention in the Gospels, he withdrew often to quiet places to pray. Luke 5 says this: "The news about him spread all the more, so that the crowds of people came to hear him and to be healed of their sicknesses. But Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed." Jesus knew that he needed time alone with God to rest and receive rest for his soul. Jesus built his own version of Central Park, sometimes rising early before the sun rose, so he can enjoy the solitude and the silence of the morning. It was in his time alone that Jesus was affirmed in his true identity, and he kept crystal clear about his calling, never losing clarity of his purpose. It was in these times that Jesus received the strengthening he needed from God the Father. So when we build a central park in our life, it makes space for Jesus to come and meet us. A central park in our lives is a place where we put Jesus back in the center of our lives, and we ground ourselves in his word and in prayer. It could be a place in your backyard, the chair by your fireplace, a favorite spot in the park, a pleasant place where you park your car to listen and just sit in stillness and solitude. It's a place where you can breathe the good things of God and exhale the pollution of this world. It's a place of honesty and transparency before God. It's a place where you confess your sins and you receive forgiveness and unconditional love from God. It's a space where the worst of you bubbles up to the surface and you skim it off and you hand it all to Jesus and allow him to help you sort it out. So do you have a central park in your life? Or is it time to bulldoze some of those buildings so you can make some space to be with God, to receive the rest that your soul needs? We really have to be intentional about building a central park in our lives to keep Jesus at the center of who we are. It was Mark Batterson who said this: "A change of place and a change of pace equals a change of perspective." And if you find yourself needing perspective, if you find yourself needing something in your life to change, and you're not sure what is it that's missing, it's probably the need for building a central park. So we'll continue talking about the need to adopt the postures of silence and solitude as we continue learning about the unforced rhythms of grace.